Just waiting. Well, I've never done this before. This will certainly be interesting. See if anybody at all wants to watch. Bubba Bong, one of my favorite channel names. Hello. Hello, hello. Happy 4th of July. It's a little warm in my room. It's probably about 103 outside, and I can't turn the fan on because it would interrupt the audio. Hey, Heather, Don, James, Slightly Slanted Truth. You've been commenting for a long time. Hello. Hello, Andrew. Kelly. Sorry if I missed some of you in the beginning here. I'm just kind of getting used to this. Thank you. My YouTube journey has been quite the deal, let me tell you. Netherlands. I'm going to be going to Denmark maybe in the next year, probably. That'll be an interesting part of the world to see. New Zealand. Cool. I need to make some more videos from Australia and New Zealand. Thank you very much. Adeleno Maria Robinson. Very nice. Vlad, you've been commenting for a long time, and got big help with you on my Mayan pyramid series. I don't know how many Mayan pyramids, but you helped me document a lot of them. Your videos rule. Well, I don't know about that. I don't take myself too seriously, and I'm not a very serious person, but I definitely take my research seriously. Do you think the Garden of Eden was part of the Atlantean? The Garden of Eden, I don't think has much to do with Atlantis, and Atlantis has been a pretty popular topic, I know, recently, and has been for a long time. Thank you, X Schaefer. Howdy, Gerald. It's nice being able to respond to you people live. Happy 4th, Chris, Don. Man, I should have put my cheaters on. That would have made me look old, but at least I'd be able to read these better. Thanks, Shockwave. Yeah, sharing info, that's what it's all about. I'm no different than any of you folks. I'm just learning along with you, but I just am different. I talk about what I learn. Hey, Mike. Nancy. Hello, Nancy. How's Buffalo? Put your cheaters on. Well, I think they're in the other room. My brother's out in the family room. That's why I'm not doing it out there. We've had a busy day. We're getting ready to move in about 12 days here. What was your favorite video to make? Some of those places in Turkey, like Sagmatar, that really nobody knew about. A lot of those videos that I'm really making the first video that documents it on YouTube. I try to do good with those. Get your monetary thing going. I've never set up a donation. I don't make videos to make money. But if anybody wants to send me money, why don't you send that over to Anyextee? You can read my comment that I posted and pinned on my last video. But he spent a month and a half documenting ancient America, and he gets back and his house or his place is ruined, and he had to move out, and he really needs the money. So if you want to send me money, do me a favor and send it over to my buddy Anyextee. I talked to him on the phone for about 15 minutes today, and it was good to hear his voice. He sounded positive, and I was kind of concerned about him. Cash App sucks, yeah. I made a Patreon account a long time ago, but then I just felt weird about making people pay for certain content. I want everybody to hear my content. But yeah, definitely, Anyextee really needs it. Yeah, I'm surprised all you people are home and on YouTube. I wasn't sure how many people were going to be around on a holiday evening. Star Sorcerer, hey. Stacy, how long did it take you to learn hieroglyphics? Oh, how long did it take me to learn hieroglyphics? Well, I'm still learning. I started learning about 3 years ago, and it's something that is really difficult. There's over 1,000 hieroglyphs. There's different ways to read hieroglyphs. Some of them mean one sound. Some of them mean, they're called biliterals. They mean two sounds. Learning hieroglyphs, I kind of wish I didn't, because it's a ever frustrating process, because if I look at something, if I really want to decode it, it takes me a long time. But it was very important to learn, because hieroglyphs are no different than the temples or monuments in Egypt. They're very symbolic, and it really made me understand how Egyptians portrayed ideas and concepts, learning hieroglyphs. So that was very important. And I wish I could do it faster. I have a cheat sheet. I don't know if I have it around here, but I have a cheat sheet that I use that really helps me. Some of the ways we are taught to learn hieroglyphs or interpret them is not quite complete, in my opinion. And you can take any meaning you want and combine hieroglyphs, and there's a lot I still don't understand about that. 334 in the UK. Really appreciate it. Thanks. I know I was messaging Matt at Ancient Architects today, and he wanted to know when I was going live, but I said he would probably be sound asleep when I did. Bluegrass here. Yeah. What about the flying Ben-Bens, the UFOs? I might have something to say about UFOs. I'll just save that for another video. I live in an interesting area for that kind of talk. And George Knapp is one guy I've tried to get a hold of and do an interview with. I talked to him many years ago, but I'm sure he doesn't remember me, but he would be the one to do an interview on if I ever talked about UFOs. The universe is electric. Well, it is. Yes. Oh, I'm just trying to read here to keep up. Yeah, the world is full of ruins, definitely. Howdy from Texas. I've got an Ancient America video coming from Texas coming up. Yeah, George would be really cool to talk with. I read an article of George Knapp's in 2004 on one of those city pages, papers that you would find at the entrance to a drugstore or bar or something. And that was the first time I read about Skinwalker Ranch. And that is still one of my all-time favorite books. And I think when I was first on YouTube, I did a video about Skinwalker Ranch, but that is one place I would never go visit. So what are you all drinking tonight? I'm about to crack a Guinness, a small one, Vegas style. I'm sure some of you are having a sip. What can you find in DC? Well, a lot of people with their head up. What area, Texas? I believe out El Paso way. Licking River in Kentucky. Licking River, that sounds similar. I'm just trying to keep up here. This is the first time I've done this, but it's about time in 10 years. No drinky for me. Let's see, Happy from Michigan. Might have a Michigan video. That's where all my ma's relatives are from, the UP, way up there, you know. Eh? Thank you, Punisher. That's nice. Hello from Tennessee. I got one coming up from Tennessee, too. I have probably one from every state coming up, but certainly one from Tennessee. One of my videos got taken down a couple years ago, and I never made a replacement for it. Put the chat in low mode. I'm a technical idiot. How do you do that? Yeah, alcohol is a known carcinogen. Are you going to miss Vegas? I'm not moving away from Vegas. I'm just moving a couple miles away. Have you ever read about anything in Iowa? Yeah, I did a video from Northwest Iowa. maybe about a month and a half ago. And that was on a serpent mound that got taken out there. I've also covered effigy mounds and Toolsboro mounds in Iowa. Favorite ancient places that you visited? I haven't been to many. I've been to some around here. But that is one thing that I need to do more in the future, is start traveling a little more. I probably would have gone to Egypt with Ben last November, but that's when my family had our trip planned out to Florida to visit my dad, and he passed away about an hour after everybody got there, so that wasn't a trip I was going to cancel. Dogfish. I also want to say I've just had so many messages on Facebook and my channel email. It's very tough to keep up with those, and sometimes that involves more research than making my videos, because I get stuff to look into, new places I've never heard of, pictures of mounds. Oh my God, the pictures of the mounds I've gotten in, it's unbelievable. Is Dendel singing tonight? Yes, I believe she is. I was down there Friday night, talked to her. Might have an interview coming up with her. I know some of you haven't heard an interview with her, but she's just a good friend. And I like sharing her videos. Very cool person who I've gotten along with from day one. People ask me like, hey, just a friend. Come on. Hey, Chuck. Scratch. National Army. Phil Langdon. I am familiar with Phil Langdon, by the way. I think he's been making videos for a while. But some of you might not know how I got my start on YouTube. I had no intention of ever making videos. And then I started messaging a gal in Denmark, and we got close, and she just kept on pushing me, kind of, hey, you should do it. And finally, I just wanted to do something for her, so I started making some videos. And then I never stopped in like 10 years, so it's been pretty crazy. And by the way, that person sent a message to me about 9 months ago on a video, and we hadn't talked in 6 years, and now we're close again, so that's pretty special for me. I heard a lot about you. North African sites. I have covered a few, but I have looked at some from the Carthage and a few other places. Where should send her money? Because we are Luxembourg. Cool. Greetings from Clay County, Missouri. I did some digging into our family history, and some of our relatives are from that area. You have enlightened my life. Well, some of these comments I read, and it's like, me, really? And then I kind of look at my overall work, and I think, well, maybe I've done something decent here. We are so glad she pushed. Yeah, and when Anyextee was here and we were talking on the strip, he asked me, why do you really make videos? And I said, because this special person to me, one of the most special people that I've ever met, who taught me some of the most important lessons in life. I met her on YouTube, so I think I just have a feeling deep down that I've always give back to YouTube, because that's where I found a very special person. Robert Sepper. Robert's channel, I have watched a few videos. He has said some interesting things. I don't agree with everything he says, like everybody, but I have watched his channel. You're such a hard worker. I don't consider it work. It's just something fun to me. If I considered it work, I probably wouldn't do it. Morocco. I have mentioned Morocco once. Are you writing a book? I actually have like an outline, but I'm not sure that is something that I would want to take on. Maybe in the future. Maybe. But there's a couple subjects I could probably think of that I'd want to write on. And if there's anybody down there that I've met at the Luxor watching this over the past few years, sometimes I talk to people down there, and if there's anybody I met down at Luxor that's watching, I've enjoyed those talks. You should do a collaborate with Jimmy from Bright Insight. I wouldn't mind. Me and Jimmy disagree on certain things, but he is somebody that mentioned my channel when I only had 10,000 subs, and like a week later I had 40,000 subs. So I'll always be thankful for Jimmy for doing that, you know, way beyond anything we disagree about. Skinwalker Ranch, that I said that at the beginning. I love Skinwalker, The Hunt for the Skinwalker. That's the book by George Knapp, one of the best books I've ever read. Freaky book. One of the few books that I've read that's really actually unnerved me a little bit. Because most people or most books that talk about stuff like that, you think, oh man, people are trying to do this for publicity, make money, and those people just wanted to get the hell off the ranch and not be known. So that was a very intriguing book. Naptoplaya, I've talked about. I did videos on Naptoplaya. I think that comes from about 8,000 years ago, but Thomas Brophy did work on that, and what he really uncovered, and if he's correct, that really puts a whole new light on how much they knew about astronomy. Yeah, lost history, that's very important to me. Stuff that people don't know about or there's no videos on YouTube about. And if you really research, man, there's so much out there that is just not known. What do you think the purpose of the mounds? Just for burials? Yeah, a lot of them, of course, they say, well, they were ceremonial. And they say that because, well, that'll cover so many different things. But I don't think they're any different than the pyramids in Mesoamerica or Egypt. They were symbolic. They represented something and had to do with the afterlife and the heavens. And a lot of our answers are up in the stars to what the ancient people did. The Terracotta Army in China, I have covered that before, and in case some of you don't know, I made a video last fall where I think I located 80 or 85 pyramids in China on Google Earth. That was fun to do, and you know, if you just go exploring and put a little time into it, that's one of the best ways to make videos, is just find stuff like that on Google Earth. Thank you very much, 5th Ward 1983. Nice of you. I'm going to be making a few more videos on some cave sites. I also had some messages about that finding they did in China, about that dragon man or some different type of species. I thought that was interesting, but I just had too much going on today. I didn't make a video. Mound City, California. There's a lot of mound cities around the country. I found that out, and a lot of mounds with the same names. The Chaco Culture Roads, I can't really recall, but I remember covering that in a video I made about 5 years ago, but they were long and extensive and kind of like the Mayan Causeway that go over Belize and Guatemala and those places. It's pretty impressive, and it's kind of the same idea, I think. Matthiasen Colony stuff. You know what? I haven't heard of Matthiasen. Was that the name? I have not heard of him. I don't watch a lot of ancient history videos anymore. Most of my time is just making videos, and then some of the time I just want to kind of check out. But I also want to say, when I've mentioned this before, when I first moved to Vegas and lived here between 2002 and 2007, I was a totally different person. I was hell-bent on destruction. I had just gotten divorced, very self-destructive, and pretty lucky to still be around today. And I was talking to Matt about this today when we were messaging, but today, July 4th, is the 14th anniversary of me doing bad things. Just wanted to mention that. Roads, trying to keep up with the messages here. I read an interesting story coming from Colorado the other day. Haven't done a lot from Colorado. I still have to do a Nebraska and a Delaware video to complete every state doing an ancient America. So if you live in Nebraska or Delaware and you have an ancient site, why don't you send that to me? Thanks, Brian. You've been commenting for a long time. Welcome back to sanity. Yeah, it was pretty insane 5 years. What do you do when you get divorced? You move for Vegas and party for 5 years. You know, some of you go to Vegas, you say, oh, those 3 days are kind of a blur. Well, 2002 through 2007 was kind of like that for me. But a lot of my family didn't want me to move back here because they thought I would revert to old habits, but I haven't been tempted once. It's all about where you are in your mind, not where you live. St. Paul, Minnesota, here, as you know. I grew up in Minnesota. In fact, I lived on 7th Street in St. Paul, right at the very west end of it when I was a real little kid. Been to many games, played hockey at the St. Paul Civic Center and St. Paul Auditorium. Lost a few teeth in St. Paul. He moved to Vegas and got out 3 months later. Well, living here is different. You either love it or hate it. And I love it. I just couldn't deal with the snow anymore in Minnesota, the bleak 6 months a year where you couldn't play golf. Born in Wilmer, Minnesota, Brian. I fished on Green Lake in Wilmer, caught some walleyes out there. But I think I have a few subs from Minnesota, and I might have a few more Minnesota videos coming. That's always an interesting topic, and it's nice chatting with Scott Walter from Minnesota. We chat once in a while about where we went to school. One of our friends passed away. He was assistant general manager of the Minnesota Wild, and we both knew him. His name's Tom Curvers, but he had a good job with the Minnesota Wild, and he passed away with lung cancer a couple weeks ago. So we were both pretty bummed out about that. That was hell. Yeah, hell of a thing for sure. Have you seen the 2000? I've seen a lot of stuff on Google Earth. Google Earth is a little tricky. If you're really over anxious to make videos of something you found, a lot of stuff can be explainable. But Google Earth has been a great tool for me. I think it's a great way to introduce videos and exit videos because it'll give you a look exactly on the Earth where it is and stuff in the nearby area. Northern Michigan. Hey. Yeah, I miss Northern Michigan, the copper country. My grandpa's buried in Calumet. Well, I'm just trying to keep up. I really shouldn't stop talking for a while if it's me making a video. But I've got a lot more stuff coming up. I've got some good videos on some sites in Egypt coming up. Maybe an interview or two coming up. I haven't really been pressing people to have a chat with me, except maybe Matt at Ancient Architects. I bug him all the time. I think he's getting sick of it. But I don't know. I'm still open for suggestions. Probably about the 5th or 4th or 3rd of the videos I do are by request videos. Calumet. Any shroud developments? Maybe I missed a comment on the shroud, but my shroud research, I still look into that once in a while, and it's the most fascinating thing that I've ever researched, even though I wasn't interested at all when I started researching it. And people, you know, when they first hear, you know, oh, a shroud video, they think cuckoo, cuckoo. And that is one of the few things that I researched just kind of because I was so curious. I wanted to know the answer because we really weren't explained for sure what that object is. And even if I would ask any one of you, what do you know for sure about the Shroud of Turin? What would you say? And people think, oh, he believes the Jesus story, and no, and he dismisses the Jesus story, and then it's no, and I'm somewhere right smack in the middle. And I've said this before, when I first started researching the Shroud, any documentary I saw started, is this the actual burial cloth of Jesus Christ, or is this a medieval hoax? That's a terrible way to do research. So I went for alternative answers, and I believe 100% that I found one. And the reason why I haven't talked about it is because YouTube hates it. YouTube banned a video that I tried to make. And I can't even say everything that I found out in my research for obvious reasons. So it's a bothersome topic. And when I finally concluded where this guy was buried, it was a horrific video, if any of you remember that. Even the Sphinx. Personally, I think the Sphinx is about 11,000 years old. Yeah, people want me to talk about Shroud, but pretty much everything that I would say I've already said if you go look through my older videos. But the precise time that really went down was when Halley's Comet was visible. Josephus says that, and Halley's Comet directly has to do with that story, and then the Romans rewrote it in a fairy tale love and peace story 2 centuries later. Good night, Roddy. Love my work. Yeah, it's not work. If it's work, I wouldn't do it. It's just fun and a learning experience. But yeah, I want to interview a few more people. I'd love to talk to Randall Carlson, both growing up in Minnesota, wondering the same things. I'd have a lot of good questions for him. I would like, I'd like to talk to Ben again. We've done about 5 talks together. It's been a while. Matt, a few other people, Hugh Newman. I'd like to talk to Hugh, Andrew Collins. There's a whole bunch of people that I watch when I started making videos that it just blows me away that they actually watch my work and comment on it now. Kind of freaks me out a little. Thank you, Colin. I'm sure I've missed so many comments here. Any story, a history really shock you? Some of those ancient America videos I did, what they did with 500 or 1,000 skeletons they found, and that's coming from recent history where they just threw them in the river near the mounds. Some of that stuff was unbelievable. Yeah, I'd love to do a session with Randall. Yeah, Mark Twain. When I did my last video, the crowd or the Shroud Comet and the crucifixion, I think I mentioned Mark Twain in that video. Thank you, Jersey. Have I excavated a mound yet? No, I don't think I'd really want to. Enough illegal looting has been done of those things already. Fort Hill, Serpent Mound. Ohio is so full of ancient things, and I'm still finding stuff that I've never heard of. It just kind of blows me away. The ocean of knowledge, Chuck. Well, some of my friends think I'm an ocean of something or other. Yeah, me and Brian Forrester made a video last November. We did about a half-hour talk. Well, I appreciate you all tuning in and have some interest in what I have to say. I wasn't sure what was going to happen tonight. Yeah, so rich people could have a better view of the river. That happened on Summit Avenue in St. Paul. There was a very impressive set of mounds out there, and fortunately, there was some good archaeological research done on them by a guy named T.L. Lewis, who also investigated mounds in Wisconsin and Iowa. But they got taken out for the sole purpose of giving the rich people down there a better view. Professor Chuck, yeah. I don't know if I want to be called a professor. At the bottom of the oceans, a lot of history down there. I was just reading an article about a cypress forest found off of Louisiana, way out there. That must have been covered up during the Younger Dryas period. A lot of stuff. Ohio Pipestone. Yeah, I think I mentioned that in my video on Flint Ridge. I think I did. My history lessons. Well, I've said this before. I don't make videos on YouTube because I know a lot about history. I know a lot about history simply because I made a couple thousand videos on YouTube. And if anybody does that, you're going to know a lot about history and get kind of that ancient vibe feeling. What does apps mean? What does apps mean? That's what all my friends called me during hockey. Pass a puck apps. Apps, you're a dumbass. Nice shot apps. Even when I call friends that I knew in high school, the first thing they say is, hi, apps. And a few of you call me that on my comments, so you know the inside story. There were once so many mounds in Beloit, Wisconsin. You know what? I was just reading about Beloit the other night. My ex-wife's family had a cabin near Bone Lake in Wisconsin, near the Apple River. Under the Persian Gulf, probably like a lot of places, but that place was probably covered up 12,000 years ago. I make the best use of Google Earth. Well, I'll tell you, I've used it for so long, it kind of becomes an extension of my brain. I don't even think what my fingers are doing. They just do it for me, which is good because I have enough stuff to think about when I'm trying to pronounce stuff right. Ancient Florida, a lot of cool places in Florida. I've read about some mounds and other places in the Twin Cities around the Minneapolis area. And of course, I made the video about Lake Minnetonka. They used to have thousands of them around there. Yeah, Google Earth and the Nazca lines, if you want to explore a cool place, just go up above Nazca where the main glyphs are and go up in the mountains. It's just incredible, those lines up there. Did you hear about the ground penetrating radar? I got rid of these. No, I did not hear about that. Greens plenty. I did not hear about that. Buried under the Sahara, a lot of stuff is in the Sahara. I've done videos, but they're kind of just kind of rudimentary ruins. What's your favorite song of Dendel's? I really like her version of Wild Horses. I don't mean, or maybe you mean one of her original songs. Hockey apps, yep. I used to play hockey. And some of you know I'm fairly opinionated, and it might shock you to know that I led my team in penalty minutes more than once just by getting in a lot of arguments with the referees and getting 10-minute misconducts and banished to the penalty box. In fact, once in Richfield, Minnesota, some parents came over and spit on me and my friend in the penalty box. Still remember that. Ely, Nevada is an interesting place. When camping up at Cave Lake up there and caught some, what are they called? Golden cutthroats up there. But Ely, Nevada is a beautiful place. Ex-goaltender over here. You are all nuts. You goalies. You are nuts. Thank you, MK. Yeah, that was back in the 80s, though. Stuff went on then. That was assault. Hockey's a great sport. Still very good friends. I can get together with any of my hockey buddies that I played with when I was 9, 10, 14 years old growing up, and we just go back to that time immediately, just best of friends again. Stone circles in South Africa, that's an interesting one. I've covered those in one of my first years on YouTube, and then in the last maybe 6 months ago I covered it. I think they're fascinating just because they're so vast. There's so many of them. Michael Tellinger has a few things to say on them, and then there's the standard model history on them. Haven't really got to a definitive answer. Tennessee, very cool place. Pinson Mound, some other sites. A site that I'm going to be talking about soon. Have you determined the function of Fort Hill? You know what? Fort Hill is one of those sites. I made, about 40 videos on ancient Ohio now. Fort Hill I haven't covered yet. That will be maybe a future video. I know one of my subscribers made a video on Fort Hill. I remember watching that. That Nazca lines to Angkor Wat thing, I think that was already known when I did my video, but that was in a response to my Nazca lines video where I kind of showed how if you just kept the Nazca lines going around the whole Earth, they kind of look like globe lines, latitude lines, longitude lines, whatever. That was an interesting video. One of my oldest videos. My microphone had just broke. The worst sounding video I've ever made, and then that comes one of my most watched videos. No, I haven't done any work in the field digging. That's why I really envy people that have really gotten out there. And anybody going to Egypt, that I have high respect for them going and actually seeing it. But George Howard did the dig at that place in Jordan. I really respect him for that. Any thoughts on Oak Island? I want to make a video on Oak Island. I think I have a lot of things to say. I don't think anything's there anymore, but who was there? Can you kind of trace a journey? But that is a story that is super hard to research. That's why I kind of maybe like to do one on that. Just because there's no book you can read saying here's a story, but you can take different pieces and try to piece them together in a way that might become plausible. But Oak Island, nothing still there. Nothing has been there for a long time. Cahokia, yeah. Love to do it. Yeah, Atlantis, it's always the island of Atlantis. Not very many megaliths in the USA, that is for sure, as far as ancient stonework, but it seems they just had what was most available for them. Other places, it's limestone, and the few places that were by limestone outcroppings, they did build some stone mounds, but man, that stone got hauled away from all those mounds and small pyramids for road construction. Some of you are driving over ancient pyramids. I have done a few videos on Çatalhöyük. That's a very interesting place. I think I mentioned that in my video yesterday. Knights Templar gold stash. Well, do we have evidence that anybody from the affiliation of or kind of Knights Templar people were in North America in like 1363? Do we have any evidence? I'm from Minnesota, remember? The giant wall in Texas, I don't know. If you're talking about the rock wall, I'm not sure if that is a man-made formation. There was some magnetic surveys done of that. I think that's what went on. And if you're going to figure out if something was man-made, they would be pointing all different ways. But I think those magnetic points were all pointing the same way, which might debunk if that was man-made. But I've never looked into it that much. Roman roads are fascinating. Haven't done too much on the Romans. Egyptian relics found in Grand Canyon. I would love to go to the Grand Canyon and search, but I just don't think it's inaccessible. Have I done a video with Antonio Zamora? No, but whenever I have a question, I message him and he sends me back a great answer. I know he did kind of a funny video on Flat Earth the other day. I didn't have a chance to watch all of it. Yeah, the Shroud of Turin video, really difficult to figure out what exactly I would say in that. But as I said, most of the stuff I have already said. Most of my videos are right on as far as where the research was going. I would probably reword some of them a little bit, but I've tried to debunk myself for a few years now and just found more and more evidence of what I found. But that's a tough one to do. Opinions on ancient stones or when something started, it's a little different than making a video that might offend somebody's religious faith. But yeah, well, me and Randall are both from Minnesota, you know. What's your thought on the mud floods? There's a lot of floods, and I guess I really need to know exactly what mud floods means. I've done videos on the walls up above Berkeley in California. I've done a few of them. I think I watched quite a bit. That's an interesting subject with a lot of possible answers, and I don't know how you can really get a Real good one. I could make a video talking to my Minnesota accent solely. People, when I moved here, that's the first thing I was accused of, is having a Minnesota accent. And I said, what do you mean? I talk normal, you know. Might go back to Minnesota coming up here. We're going to be putting my dad's ashes in at Fort Snelling. So maybe when I go back there, maybe I'll have a time to do an Ancient America video from a few places. Oofda, you betcha. Yeah, those Bay Area Mr. Walls are cool. I did a video on the Windover Bogs, 7,000 years old in Florida. I did a video on that in my first Ancient America series about 5 years ago when I covered maybe about 15, 20 sites. I was just reading about Watson Brake in my Graham Hancock America before, when I was out by the pool a little earlier today. But Watson Brake is a very important place going back 5,400 years, and it seems that they were doing things that the mound builders were doing a few thousand years later. People think Poverty Point is ancient, but Watson Brake goes back a couple thousand years old. Hello from Thunder Bay. I think I lost some teeth in Thunder Bay once. Hockey was fun. I got hit in the head so many times, it's amazing. I can complete a complete sentence. Yeah, I like to read. Reading's important. I remember when I discovered you and Danny Wilton. Danny Wilton was one of the first people I started watching when I got on YouTube, and he was very intellectual and had some really cool thoughts on Orion. And I remember that. He kind of didn't tell me kind of what to think, but more or less how to think. I remember Danny very well. Gladius Maximus, thank you. Lightning Rod, Tampa Bay is top down. Tampa Bay's got a great hockey team. We'll say that. Michael Cremo, I listened to Michael Cremo's lectures about UPARTs. Is that what they're called? Out of place artifacts from way back. I mean, going way back in history. I find it very interesting. I just haven't found anybody that really gives a good explanation for some of the things he brings up. I think the Serpent Brothers have talked to him or done videos on that. No, not a native Nevadan, but this is definitely home. Definitely home now. I'm really glad I moved back here. I miss my family in Minnesota, but when you feel really deep down that this where you know you want to live, then you just kind of have to be selfish at times. It sucks being away from the family, though, at times. If I could ask the late, great John Anthony West one question, what would it be? Wow, tough one. You want to go have a drink? That's probably what I would ask him. A lot of carvings of Orion, a lot of ancient petroglyphs are Orion. That's one thing that I've learned about rock art. Definitely were looking up when they did that. Hey, Rosemary. Minnesota. I was born in Duluth. I have some pictures of me waving out to the ships when I was a little kid. You grew up in Vegas, Will. That's a rare one. It's different living out here. Everybody is from somewhere else. Yeah, Tampa Bay, they might sweep. What's so special about Sirius? Are you serious? No, that is very much connected to some myths in Egypt, and it's kind of semi-connected or directly connected to Orion and the whole afterlife journey, taking that boat. Born in Fridley, Minnesota. My state Bantam team won the state hockey tournament at Columbia Arena in Fridley. You're one cool dude? Well, my friends who know me know I can be an idiot at times. The Dog Star, there you go. I actually made one video that connects that shrine to the dog star, but kind of changed my views slightly on that. Pyramids off the coast of Cuba, that's interesting. You heard about that a long time ago and then just dead nothing. So it's a hard one to investigate. A lot of speculation. Favorite golf course, probably Paiute, just northwest of Vegas here. Lowest round, believe it or not, I think my lowest round was when I was 17 years old in Minnesota Valley Golf Course, Minnesota Valley Country Club where I used to work. 76. My lectures, yeah, I moved here. Bimini Road's an interesting one. Now, I go out in the desert and I see a lot of things that certainly look like man-made stones, but they aren't. Is there beach rock formed like that? I'm just not sure. It seems a way too even and way too like in a road formation to be natural, but that's a tough one. I moved out to Vegas after I got divorced and was a crazy person for 5 years. Never thought I would stay here this long, but then I moved back to Minnesota in 2007 and moved back out here in 2014. I felt really guilty about being away from my youngest, who was only 9 when I moved away from Minnesota. So I went back to Minnesota for 6-7 years while he finished junior high and high school and got close to him again. And then after he graduated from high school, I just got super restless and just didn't like living in Minnesota. And after living here, it was, I don't know, the weather mainly. Also found some interesting mounds in Bloomington where I used to live. Do you think human initially started? I don't know. Human history, sometimes we might have to think, well, we look back to the Younger Dryas, and then we might have to think even further cycles back that humans were doing things that they are doing today. And then civilization just kind of gets wiped out or ended for some reason or another, and then it starts up again. So we might have had dozens and dozens of cycles of history on this planet. You just never know. I think we are kind of toddlers in knowing a lot about things yet. Do you like the Louisiana mounds? Louisiana is unbelievable. That's kind of like Ohio. Those riverways are just full of mounds. And some archaeologists who were working out there, a guy sent me a paper last week or 2 weeks ago, and that is one that I should do because he took the time to send me the recent work at this place. I went on a field trip, I think in 3rd grade, to a place called Indian Mounds School, where there was Indian mounds. And that was the last time, and that was so long ago I can't even remember. Don't even want to tell you how far back that was. The origin, Mesoamerica, Mesopotamia. Never looked into that. That's an interesting one. Few of the more compelling books. Serpent in the Sky, Graham Hancock's books. Even some of his early ones, Heaven's Mirror, The Orion Mystery, was that the name of it? But I haven't read a lot of history books lately. I did a video on the Montana megaliths probably about a year ago. That is one site that if some sort of human built that, I want to meet them humans. Some sites, hey, Anyextee, glad you chimed in. It was nice talking to you earlier. Good to hear your voice, buddy. Yeah, the Ice Age in Ohio and other places in the north by the Great Lakes. That's a fascinating geology thing to think about, is how those lakes kind of expanded and were formed and what did it. And we don't have a good explanation for that. The energy paradox, if the same amount of heat were being produced over the years, a gradual melting, we should still have plenty of that ice cap still left, but for some reason it all went away. A lot of speculation on that, and I think Graham and Randall really have the best explanation for it. The Earth flipping on a cycle. Charles Hapgood was one of the first people that I investigated. I'm not sure if that's really what you're getting at. James Swagger. That sounds like somebody who did interviews a long time ago. Yeah, you all should be Anyextee supporters. Me just sitting on my ass talking about history is one thing. Going out there, taking time, money, effort to document ancient sites, that's what it's all about. The Day After Roswell, that is one of my favorite books. Somebody asked me about favorite books. I actually did a video you can still find on my channel on The Day After Roswell. And I'm not into kooky conspiracy theories, but I actually do think something happened at Roswell, and it's because I read the book The Day After Roswell. It wasn't a kooky book at all. Philip Corso wrote that, Colonel Philip Corso, and what he writes about it, he explains how discovered material that you don't know where it's from would be handled, and I just thought it was an excellent book. Yep, definitely. You know what? I'm having some stout Guinness tonight. Good American beer. Oops. Don't want to bump the table anymore. Cheers. I don't know how to pour a beer either. The geology of that area that I covered, the Fertile Crescent, that whole area is very diverse and interesting. After my dad passed away, we got some results back, and yes, I am 8% Scottish. So I think I should go over there, play golf, and have a pint. Pour beer at an angle. I'm such a rookie. I saw Matt post something on Twitter about pouring a beer the other day. That was pretty funny. Hey, Will, Craig. I am Irish too, about 5% Irish. Little German. Little German, wie geht's? Sprechen Sie Deutsch? And tilt the glass, pour it down. All right. That's a bit better. A bit better. Ancient iron mines in the UP. Yeah, I wish I would have known about that when I was a kid, when I made trips up there. Thank you, Mad Chaos. That's one thing I'm embarrassed about, is I don't know another language. I only know how to speak English. And I think people from around the world probably find that a little weird. DNA migration routes. I've looked a little bit into that, but that isn't something that I research a lot or have dipped into a lot. Did you see the fireworks? I can hear them right now, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you can hear those, but they're going off at the ballpark about 5 blocks up the road, maybe half a mile. The AAA baseball park. Mississippi has almost as many sites as Louisiana. That whole area down there is full of them. New England sites, I have covered a couple sites in Massachusetts, one called the Brookstones site, the Burnt Hill site. That is a megalithic stone circle. People have no idea how old that one is. I covered a site in Massachusetts, I believe, not too long ago. Covered America's Stonehenge. Maybe might do a video on that again. Not sure. But there's so many topics to talk about. I remember when I first doing YouTube videos, maybe after 25, 30 videos, I was like really struggling for things to talk about back then. Like, what the hell should I actually talk about? Now it's just endless lists. Hey, great. Hey, Gabrielle. God, I've had 3 sips and I'm tipsy. Poverty Point is an interesting place. Medicine Wheel in Wyoming, I've done a video on. That outcropping that Medicine Wheel is on is pointing at the sunrise on an important solstice day. They had Vikings in Arizona. They haven't been to the Super Bowl since 1977. I'm divorcing myself with the Vikings. I watch Joe Rogan once in a while. Unfinished Pyramids, I might have something more to say about that. I made an interesting, or something that really caught my eye when I was doing some reading. The Unfinished Pyramids was the best thing I learned doing my Egypt Pyramid series, looking at all the pyramids. Hey, Brian. Brian always has good comments. Vikings in Minnesota, if you're talking ancient history, it wasn't the Vikings that were responsible for the Kensington runestone. That was the Cistercians. Maybe talk to Scott Walter if I make a video on that subject. Florida has paved over. Yeah, I was in Florida, a few times over the last few years, and a lot of ancient history down there, that is for sure. Thank you, Lauren. Nice to comment in real time to people. Sometimes I'm just not in the history mood, but once you get me started, I won't shut up. People have learned that, have talked to me down at the Luxor. Thanks, James. Thanks, Larry. But at the end of the Younger Dryas, that end could have been a common impact. There might have been a cycle of impacts going that happened maybe 6 or 7 times, and that's why they were looking for it so big, or documented it, Göbekli Tepe. Boy, ancient China is quite the deal. You have all these dynasties. It's one thing to learn about all the dynasties in Egypt and even from the Mayans and stuff. And then you go to China, pyramids on the river, different dynasties. It looks like they reused some places. That's a whole different thing. And those places are just tough to pronounce. Utah has some crazy stuff. Yes, Utah has some very cool petroglyphs and some very nice golf courses and some beautiful scenery. Been talking to my brother about going up to a few national parks, Zion for one, in Utah. Not too far away. I can't believe we've never been up there. Many Indian mounds destroyed, yes. How we treated these ancient sites, I've talked a lot about that. Could it have been from a solar event or a comet or a meteor? Sometimes there's an argument. Was it a solar storm or a supernova or a comet? Maybe there's multiple answers. Maybe a comet came in and created electrical storms, or I think that is one thing interesting that you can look into and come up with a whole bunch of different possibilities. But there's just so much evidence that it seems like we got rained on by cosmic debris, probably from a comet. But I'm open to anything with different research, but I know what I certainly think is more valid than others. Hey, Leah, you send a lot of comments. You have a good night. Sustained lightning, there was a thing on, what was that? A volcano went off somewhere and they had super bad electrical storms. Imagine multiple impacts and all the debris that would send up. If one volcano can touch off a huge lightning storm, what would multiple impacts do with stuff going up in the atmosphere? I think the biggest problem is we've never witnessed an event that happened at the Younger Dryas, so we can only guess as to how bad it was. And I think it was a lot more worse than anybody can even think of. Yeah, that video I did, the equator in the North Pole 12,500 years ago, I did that one off the top of my head as a response to my previous video on the Nazca lines, and I listened to that and I just cringe. I wish I could reword that one. South America is beautiful. I'd love to go to Peru. Caves in the Grand Canyon. I would love to go exploring down there, but that's just not a too viable thing to do. Large stones cut and move that we can't do today. Yep. There's something that they knew a long time ago that we have totally lost track of. Yeah, I've been listening to Ben at Suspicious Observers since before I was making videos, so that's been over 10 years. He has a good channel. It's just, as I said, I'm interested in anything people have to say, but I certainly have my opinions in certain fields. Never done a video on the Antarctic. Never done a video down there. A lot of people say they found things down there. It's tough when you do evidence-based research and do something legit on Antarctica. Do you agree the Sphinx is 12,900 years old? No, I think it's a little earlier, maybe 11,000. The text says these people came to Egypt after the cataclysm and erected monuments in regards to their homeland to memorialize their homeland. So I think around 11,300 years ago, I think in a video, or one of my few videos where I tried to put a date on, I think that's about what I said. And there's some evidence from some, the Dendera Zodiac and a few other things that we kind of, they spiraled out of the age of cancer or started around the age of cancer in Egypt. Mount Sinai. I've done a video on Mount Sinai and what I think that actually is. Petroglyphs and golf courses. I followed that story from ancient Ohio on the Newark Works, and I actually found a course in Scotland where there's a big henge on one of the tee boxes last week. Yeah, I'll have to go through this video and look up those channels that are being recommended to me, because I get some recommended to me that I can't believe I've never watched before. But I don't spend a lot of time watching history videos these days. Sometimes you get a little worn out, and you really shouldn't put too much thought into your ancient history videos. I think it's possible to think about it too much, but now I mainly watch sports and comedy videos. Help create visibility for smaller accounts. I mentioned a lot of accounts on my channel. There's a lot of people that watch. You see me commenting elsewhere. I have mentioned my thoughts on the Ark of the Covenant, what I think that the real history where that comes from. I think the Bible just kind of puts the power of God and tries to squeeze it into the narrative of the Bible. Norm Macdonald. I have a video with Norm Macdonald on my channel. He said hi to me when I met him at the Aria. Super nice guy. Ancient India I find super fascinating. I just don't know enough about the Buddhist culture and Buddhism and Hindu and those monuments. It's so much to learn. Thunderbolts Project is a great channel. I've watched their videos. I used to watch those a lot more in the past. Utah, a lot of very cool places. Might have a video on, I think it's about a couple months ago or 3 months ago, I used to do some videos where I just end it with a 15 or 20 minute lecture. I might have one of those lectures coming up from the ancient Southwest again. Uncharted X, I chat with Ben once in a while. I think we've done 5 videos already together. And if we have a good video subject and we can find the time, sure. Megalithomania. I like Hugh Newman. He was one of the first people I started watching when I got into this, and he left me a very nice comment. Him and Andrew Collins watched my Göbekli Tepe, the 30 sites around their video, left a nice comment. That was always nice, and it still freaks me out that people that I watch know who I am. Follow the great rivers and ancient river valley for clues about the past. It was all about the riverways in ancient America. They were one big highway system. Proveen Mohan for truth. Proveen for India. Yeah, I've watched a video of Proveen's. Is that how you say his name? Proveen. I've watched a couple of videos from India, learned some things. He did one video on Alligator Mound in Ohio and attached it to ancient astronauts. So I thought that was kind of funny. If we had a TV show that you don't see much on TV about lost history. I do watch Ancient Aliens just because that is one of the only shows that shows these ancient ruins. And that show has kind of gone off the tracks, but I still watch it once in a while. I don't watch much TV. But I just want to thank everybody for sending me all the messages, because your messages have really spurred on my content. Sometimes I have no idea in my mind what I'm going to talk about next, and half hour later I get a message, I'm looking into a site and I'm talking about it the next day. So I appreciate all the tips, because it's impossible for one person to know about all the sites in ancient America, let alone the world. Have you heard of the Squatter Man Project from Lost History Channel? I actually messaged with him on Twitter today. But Squatter Man, I've looked into it, the ancient petroglyphs, and I have showed in a few videos ancient Squatter Man. In a lot of those is Orion. I have no doubt about that. Giant skeletons, I'll have a video on that coming up again. That is a tough one to really do videos on if you want to be super accurate. A lot of the archaeology coming from that time is from amateur archaeologists. Some of it's based on assumptions because the skeletons were not together. But I definitely believe there was people, 6'10", 7'2", 7'4" in some of those mounds, some very big people. They weren't giants, but they were certainly huge people, and certainly would have had some status for their size, I'm sure. South America, I still have some sites that I need to talk about in South America. Brazil is one place. I found a pretty cool site. The Great Lakes copper mines, yep. I've done a few videos on that recently, and now the new study says that started about 9,500 years ago. So it didn't take so long for people to get after it after the Younger Dryas ended. Thank you, Derp Frog. Thanks, Daniel. Making videos has just been a great way to learn about history, because if you're going to talk about something publicly, you better know what you're talking about. And then if you do a video, if you do 5 videos a week, you're going to learn a lot in that week. And then if you do 250 videos a year, you're going to learn a lot in that year. And 10 years, well, Mount Ararat, that's an interesting subject. And was that the original place where they said the ark landed? Or was history changed by some people who wanted to change the text? Wearing masks was an interesting social ritual. Yes, it was. Glad everything on the strip is back to normal. 100% occupancy, no masks. It was tough to wear one out here when it was 110. The Solutreans, that is a subject I should dive into. The Solutreans, there's a lot of very deep history that I really haven't looked into enough. Oh, there are some fireworks now. Where you wolf, hey. But I'll probably be wrapping this up fairly soon. But if there's any subjects that you want me to talk about, the best way to get a hold of me is through my Facebook messages or my channel email, cfapp7865@yahoo.com. I live 45 miles uphill. But hopefully I'll have some more interviews. Hopefully I'll have some more interviews and stuff coming up. Don't have a shortage of things to talk about. But it was nice hanging out with my subs tonight. I had enough fun Friday night. Didn't need to go out tonight. Thank you, Rudiger. Is that like Rudy Rudiger? Rudiger Storm. Thanks, Brian. That place in Southern Illinois is one of the lost gems of ancient America. That video titled The Equator 12,500 years ago, I hate listening to that, but I think it's great information. It makes you think, what did people really know about? Thanks, Rosemary. Zactoman. Hey, no problem, Gretchen. Bubba Bong, cheers. Yep, spear points is one thing I wish I knew right off the top of my head instead of having to read about it again. Dragon Man, I read about him today. That's a pretty interesting one. Hey, I read an interesting story about findings they were making off the coast of Australia. Hello, Liliana from Sydney. A lot of interesting history, and I'd like to talk to Ben or maybe Charles Koss about the history in Australia. Thanks, Justin. Cheers from Lakeville. If that's Minnesota, my son went to Lakeville South. Hey, no problem. I like spending the holiday with friends. I consider you guys my friends. But I think I'm going to turn it off. Arizona Lights UFO. That's an interesting one. I'm not sure about that, but I remember watching that video. Gosford Glyphs. Me and Ben talked about that when I interviewed him maybe last fall. By the soothing voice. Really? Thanks, Aaron. Well, people, I think I'm going to call it a night. My ass is falling asleep. But you guys have a very nice night. Hope you thought this was interesting. And you all have a very nice day.